Now, whenever one is looking at the history of Indian music, there is one thing one needs to be especially careful of. That's why it's a very major pitfall. And this has to do with something which is very, very firmly entrenched in the Indian psyche. That is the concept of time. And I think it's probably better to look at the contrasting view of time between a Western and an Indian viewpoint. Both, we see, do have their problems. In the West, there is a tendency of looking at time as being an improvement. Every time a new product hits the market, it's always boldly proclaimed to be new and improved, to the point where the presumption is that if something is new, it must automatically be improved. We hold the passage of time to be synonymous with growth and increasing in abundance, increasing in strength, and improving in everything like this. Of course, I think that we can realize that that is not always the case. It's interesting to contrast this Western viewpoint of the passage of time with the Indian concept. I believe that the Indian concept of the passage of time is best summed up by the Sanskrit word kal. Now remember, kal can have several meanings. On one hand, it means time. It also means the color black, or things which are black. But more important for us, kal also means death, destruction, and decay. In the Indian mindset, the concept of the passage of time is automatically equated with decay. Now this has a very, very, very profound influence on history as it is interpreted within the Indian mindset. To begin with, if there is something which is held in high esteem today, there is the presumption that in the past it was better, and that the older it was, the better it was. A very, very common problem in dealing with Indian historians, especially in the academically less rigorous fields, would be the feeling that everything comes from the Vedas. And as a general rule, if someone tells you that something comes from the Vedas, this is probably wrong. So this is again something you need to be very careful about. Whenever someone is talking about the age of something, if it's coming from traditional Indian sources, there's a very strong likelihood that the antiquity is being very greatly inflated, and you need to look very, very careful. If we're going to have some objective approach to history, you need to be very careful of this temporal skew. This tends to skew everything towards being older than things really are. Well, in this video, we discussed a basic overview of North Indian classical music, but more important than just the simple facts and figures and numbers and dates, we also discussed certain intellectual concepts that you can use in order to interpret North Indian classical music and its history. And if you keep these points in mind, this will very greatly aid you in your study of this fascinating field.